you're not networked, but you're known. And so
Wow.
what I had to really become even more self-aware about was really my work did provide me access into rooms. And so there would be many instances in which people would say, well, who developed that policy? Or who was able to solve this longstanding issue that everyone said could not be solved?
In today's episode of the Black Woman Leading Podcast, we are talking about recalibrating relationship building with Dawn Pinnock. If you have stepped into a new role and realize your old relationship building playbook didn't quite transfer all the way, if you are someone who's always been known rather than a traditional networker and now you got to get out there and do something different, and if you want a strategic approach to rebuilding relationships without losing your authenticity, then you need to keep listening. Let's get into it. This podcast amplifies the needs and experiences of Black women leaders in the workplace with a holistic focus on 3 core areas: leadership development, mental wellness, and relationship management. Our ultimate aim is to help Black women learn, heal, and grow in their leadership capacity. Black woman leading. Before we jump into this episode, I wanted to let you know that registration is now open for the August 2026 cohorts of both our early career and mid-career leadership development programs. No matter where you are on your career journey, our programs are designed to support your holistic development, wellness, and career growth. Now, our mid-career program is designed for mid and senior level leaders, and it focuses on building strategic leadership skills and developing a customized career strategy in this phase of your career. Our early career program is a training program that's designed to strengthen the foundational leadership competencies needed to grow and to step into leadership. Now, of course, both programs will center your mental wellness and self-care and also provide a culturally relevant lens for you to do your personal and professional development work. The amazing thing about the transformative experience you have while in Black Woman Leading programs is that it's not over after you finish your program. We are invested in a long-term relationship with you. So upon completing our core programs, you become a part of our alumni community, and we host ongoing events throughout the year. With us, you are not just completing another professional development program. You are joining a community of support that's there with you for the long run. If you want to explore how to register for one of our programs, visit our website at www.blackwomanleading.com to get all the details. There you can review our programs, sign up for an info session, or schedule a one-on-one call with a member of our team. We'd love to welcome you to the Black Woman Leading community, and we love to support you in this season of your career. So welcome everyone. Today we are talking about recalibrating relationship building with Dawn Pinnock. Welcome, Dawn.
Thank you, Laura. I'm so excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. I want to jump into this topic, but first, let me give our listeners the official about you, Dawn. So Dawn M. Pinnock has spent nearly 30 years in public service driving change. As president and CEO of the Center for Urban Community Services, CUCS, she leads one of the city's most effective social service organizations, supporting over 50,000 people each year on their path to housing stability and long-term well-being. Before joining CUCS, she served as commissioner of the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. In this role, she created the city's first community-based hiring model, advanced family-forward policies for more than 320,000 employees, managed 22 million square feet of city-owned and leased office space, and made New York greener through fleet electrification and large-scale energy efficiency upgrades. Pinnock serves as a trustee and adjunct professor at Metropolitan College of New York, and in 2026 was appointed to Mayor Mamdani's Commission on Government Efficiency, a newly formed charter revision commission tasked with modernizing city government. Y'all, we always have the people with the receipts on the show, okay? Do you all hear what this woman is doing in the world? I love it. But I'm really excited to talk about this topic. Don, when you and I met, we had our first conversation and we were kind of ideating what we wanted to talk about. I thought this topic that you brought up of kind of recalibrating your relationship building, which is really about you all when you have been that girl in another space, right? Been there, done that, known when you walk in the room and you come in another space, you still got all this brilliance, but you got to build relationships in a way you didn't have to do that before because this is new ground. I thought that was so powerful to one, hear from your experience as an executive doing this at a high level, but also there's so many people in this current season that are pivoting to different roles. We have people doing whole career changes. We have people that were laid off and never expected to find a job at this big age, right? And now they're like,
Yes.
oh, I got to start from scratch. So I thought this was so timely and want to hear how you are navigating and managing this as well. But before we jump into all of that goodness, I have to ask all of our guests, Don, what does the phrase Black woman leading mean to you? And can you just share? We heard a little bit about your bio, but we want to hear from your take a little bit about your journey as a real life Black woman leading and how you came to this current work.
So thanks again, Laura.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing your platform. I have to tell you, when we had our first intro call, I just said, I have to talk to you. I felt like we were old friends immediately because I felt that there were so many opportunities for alignment. So I just really want to thank you for the time.
Awesome.
In terms of Black women leading, I automatically thought about legacy. I think, for better or for worse, leading and leadership is really handed to Black women. First of all, because I think we do it the best, have to say that. But, just really thinking about how we lead our families, how we lead communities, how sometimes we're asked to lead from behind.
Yeah.
I think that just our lived experience, leadership is embedded in everything that we do. You know what I mean? Really assessing the situation, trying to identify solutions, opportunities to continue to advance. Because, we live in a world, frankly, that still tries to communicate all that we're not. And time again, demonstrate who we are. And so when I thought about Black women leading, I immediately thought about legacy. I am from a woman-led family. Definitely, my grandmother was such an amazing presence and force in my life. I have 4 aunties. My mom, she's a very spicy 80-year-old, 80-year-old. And, being loved on and supported by a sister, raising my daughters. So certainly, thank God for my husband because, he loves us, in light of all of that, women energy. But knowing through the generations how, regardless of the title we've been granted professionally, just seeing that leadership in all aspects of my life has really served as the springboard to my taking on full leadership of my life and taking agency over my life, but also really wanting to pave the way for other women leaders.
I love that. I love that. I want to talk about how you brought some of that to this new role. But before that, I just want to, we cannot overlook the service. Okay. You spent 28 years in public service. A career just built on deep institutional knowledge, established networks, a particular way of operating in public service a lot of times, right? What drew you to the public service work and what did that leadership look like inside of government? Because you're leading in a different space now.
Absolutely.
But what did it look like in that space?
So in government, well, I'll take a step back. What drew me to government, and I didn't really know it at the time, was the fact that both of my parents worked within government. Right. So I had, the mindset that many of us do where I would never do what my parents do. That can't be, that would be the lamest thing imaginable, decided to do what my parents did. But I had a very short stint in the nonprofit world after graduating from college. And then I had the opportunity to have my first city job. And I quickly realized that in government service, I would have the chance to work on projects that would live beyond me. Wow. And that really drew me in. Right. So I'm someone who's a native New Yorker, product of the public school system here. And I'm very clear about how tough it can be to navigate such a large and complex city. And so in working in government, it gave me the opportunity to really work on meaningful and impactful projects for everyday New Yorkers. And so what I thought would start off as 2 years landed, to 28 years, serving under 4 mayors, in 15 different jobs, at 5 different agencies. And so, but being a native New Yorker, coming from a public service family, I think that really helped me to feel very grounded and at home, operating within the public realm.
I love it. I love it. So Dawn, I have a daughter going into her senior year in high school. Her
Congratulations. So do I.
her top choice is NYU. We were just there in April visiting. I might be calling you Auntie Dawn if she ends
Absolutely.
up there. Because I'm like, I need some people in here to look out for my
Absolutely.
girl. I
I
love
am
it.
definitely very, very good for a little drop by.
I love it. I
Yes,
love it.
yes.
So 28 years of public service,
Mhm.
doing all this amazing work in the government. And then 2 years ago, you stepped into this role of president and CEO at CUCS. What called you to make that move? And well, one, I want to hear what called you to make that move. And then second, I want to hear what surprised you about being in this different space after 28 years in government service.
So what called me was, as I sit here today, I'm a woman of a certain level of experience, a woman of a certain level, of knowledge of self-awareness, and frankly of a certain age. And I just felt that in my career, I wanted to have greater alignment with where I am personally. In government, after serving for 28 years, I learned so much, and I
Yeah.
felt like there was a way that I could give back to New York City in ways that were more impactful. Because frankly, and I'm thankful for this advancement, but the more you advance, the farther you are away from the experience of everyday New Yorkers. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to be able to lead and manage an organization, but be closer to clients in need here in New York City. And so that's why I made the pivot to a nonprofit. So in my last job, I had a staff of over 2,500 people. Here, I manage a staff of 700. That's still a lot of folks,
Yeah.
but I'm much closer to the clients that we serve, right? Those
Yes.
needing primary care, mental health support, needing permanent housing. And so I just wanted to create greater alignment with where I am personally in my life and what I wanted to do professionally. So I was certainly able to find that here in this work.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to jump into the heart of the episode, this topic, but I like to just pause because you all are doing amazing work over there. We gave a very little touch in the bio. Tell us just a little bit about the Center for Urban Community Services and kind of the core of the work that you all are doing there.
So we've been here based in New York for 47 years. So really our work started off as a grassroots project by the former founders. They were both students, graduate students here at Columbia University, pursuing social work degrees, and they really wanted to do great work. They wanted to identify the needs of nearby citizens near their campus and wanted to figure out how best to provide social work services to help individuals gain a level of stability.
Yeah.
So over time, that work continued to evolve. So as we sit here today, we have properties that we own, where we provide permanent supportive housing for individuals who are formerly homeless, folks who had a financial need, folks who have a history of substance use, also individuals who might have been contending with severe mental illness. We
Mm.
also manage transitional housing for folks who are at that midway point, right, between being street homeless and seeking a more permanent, stable life. And so my team, we offer not only housing, permanent and transitional, we also offer on-site medical care
Wow.
because we understand that homelessness is not a singular issue. So we apply a holistic and comprehensive approach to really meeting our clients where they are. So we
Yeah.
provide street outreach services, street mobile medicine, we have permanent housing, transitional housing, and then we also offer an opportunity to train people on our model. So we also have what we call the CUCS Institute. Now this work goes nationwide where we
Yeah.
train practitioners, we train NYPD officers, we train local businesses who may engage with individuals who are experiencing homelessness around how to engage in ways that are safe for them, safe
Yeah.
for our potential clients. So we really have a broad stroke that we apply to this work, but the outcomes are just phenomenal.
Yeah. And the social worker in me is over here like giddy because the wraparound, the system focus, I mean, it's so critical to make an impact on a major issue like, homelessness, right? Housing insecurity. So just really honored to be in connection with you and the amazing work that you all are doing. So let's get to the heart of the episode. And I love this because this was so self-aware. You described yourself when we talked as someone who is known. You like, I'm known where I'm at, right? But more than a traditional networker, right? And after 28 years in government, you were deeply known, right? You were working with the leaders of your city, right?
Yes.
What happened to that relationship dynamic when you stepped into a new sector, and what did it feel like to have to rebuild from a different foundation for you?
That's a great question. And so I wish I could take credit for saying that I was known but not networked, because it was actually a trusted colleague who
Wow.
I thought was phenomenal at networking, where I said, like networking doesn't always seem so comfortable for me, because I thought that it was very surface level. I felt like you had to kind of concede who you were, that it was always like this quid pro quo, as opposed to embracing it as a natural aspect of my work, especially as I advanced into leadership roles.
Right.
And so what she said was, you're not networked, but you're known. And
Wow.
so what I had to really become even more self-aware about was really my work did provide me access into rooms. And so there would be many instances in which people would say, well, who developed that policy? Or who was able to solve this longstanding issue that everyone said could not be solved? And as a result of that body of work, it really helped to open doors. So with that, I felt that I was able to really highlight my expertise from day one. Right? I didn't feel that I needed to really concede who I was and show up as less than authentic, because my work had already shown that I was battle tested, that I worked towards yes, that I was solution oriented. Yeah. And so in deciding to take that leap of faith and step out of a space where, to your point, I pretty much knew the inner workings of all these city agencies reporting to the mayor. I knew folks in City Hall. I knew folks at every agency. And now becoming the new kid on the block, I have to tell you, initially, it was a bit of a shock to my system, because I figured, you know what, I have this toolbox.
Right,
so I can get ready to apply these tools. They've worked for 28 years, right? And it's not to say that the tools don't work, but I had to actively engage in a process around highlighting the value of being in relationship with me and with my organization that I was now leading. And so a part of that work really required that I took a step back, really asked some trusted colleagues, some mentees, some folks who were historical supporters of my work, or frankly, historical opponents of my work, for me to get some true feedback on how I showed up and what they believed to be the value proposition of being in relationship with me.
Oh, okay. I feel like we're on the edge of a masterclass here, Don. Okay, we got to dive into this a little bit, because you're talking about a few things. You're talking about, one, being very clear on what we call in Black Woman Leading Land the receipts, right? That you bring. So there was some taking stock kind of self-assessment piece. But then there's also this piece, and shout out to your colleague who, gave you the language that illuminated, okay, it's something here that I need to do. There was this process you talked about, and really accessing your network. There's somebody listening right now that is feeling discouraged because they've had to pivot either a choice or a force, and they're feeling like, all of that social capital I built, now I got to start somewhere and recreate. And what I'm hearing you say is, yes, there is some work, but you got a lot of pieces to work with. Tell us a little bit about this process. So there's some self-awareness, the taking stock, but this process of then accessing your network to help you get some messaging.
So I'm someone who believes in providing a self-assessment, because I feel like I can't lie to myself. You know what I mean? Like at this day and age, if I'm lying to myself, what am I doing?
Exactly.
And so when you say tapping into my network, depending on like the mission or a project, I would try to like break things down into bits and pieces.
Okay.
So for instance, our mission is that we really want to eliminate homelessness, help people rise out of poverty and be healthy.
Yeah.
And so for me, in thinking about this toolkit that I worked really hard to build, so who's in the space around healthcare that I can talk to?
Okay.
Who's in the space around permanent and supportive housing that I can talk to? Who are the industry leaders in this space that we can then create relationships where we serve as potential allies, right? As federal funding and that landscape is changing. And so in journaling and really kind of creating a roadmap for myself, that's when I decided to talk to other trusted people who would give me their honest opinion about Dawn. Dawn is a leader. Dawn is a collaborator. Dawn is a team builder. And so, and I know I shared with you, coming up with these like mini focus groups where people were intentionally identified in order to help me decide then who within this new space I could potentially connect with. So I really spent like my first 90 days in the job trying to develop relationships with those new folks in this sector, but also looking inward into my new organization and creating relationships with the people I am now charged to lead.
Yeah, this is such a power move because, even if someone is listening, if you're like, oh, it's going to be too much to kind of pull together focus groups, you could do interviews, you could do one-to-one coffee chats.
Yes.
But what I'm hearing, we talk about in Black Women Leading, like excavating your excellence. And that's you doing, that's taking stock of all the stuff we did or whatever. But then there's also this space where I got to corroborate that amongst other people and getting that feedback. Now, when y'all ask for feedback, if you listening, don't get no attitude if somebody tell you something you don't want to hear. Now, don't ask the people if you don't want to hear. But it seemed like there was some themes that came up there that you were able to then take forward. What did the storytelling exercise look like? So you got this messaging from yourself, you got it from other people, you got some real language to deal with. How did you then use that messaging to build the relationship? Because this is really you could do a class on this, Dawn. This is good. This is really
I'm
good.
actually thinking about it. Listen, this may be maybe an opportunity. We may want to talk about
Listen, let's talk. Okay. But to the question, focus.
Right. So in terms of the storytelling, that is one thing that I definitely thought was really important as I moved into this sector.
Yeah.
Because when you work in government, normally the story you tell is about the story of the city, right? Because you're part of a much larger system. And really your job is to protect the mayor because the mayor is the CEO of New York City, right?
Yeah.
And so, but when you move into your own space as the final decision maker and as the CEO, the story is yours to tell. Yeah. So what I did was I looked at common themes. So what cut across, whether somebody was a supporter, a historical opponent, a mentee, someone that I considered to be a mentor, folks talked about my passion for the work. Folks talked about the fact that I was very open in discussing my lived experience, potentially as a New Yorker that could have been in need, right? And that I see myself in the face of all of my clients.
Yeah.
So when I looked at those common themes, I wove that into what you would kind of call almost like my 3 to 5 minute elevator pitch.
Yeah, your
I was reading as I was trying to connect with people in industry. So in moving into this space, like I really wanted to focus on like who also has a similar reputation to what CUCS has, right?
Yeah.
And the wonderful thing is that there are some other organizations here in New York City doing amazing work that's very similar to us. And so in some cases, I would send the email or do a cold call or sending a welcome email to say, hey, I'm new, I'm here at CUCS. I come to this space with this experience from government. Really want to hear about the work you do because I know we're in similar spaces. And some people took me up on that, where then we set up those calls where they could talk to me about their organization, and I shared with them like what my initial vision was. But in those calls, I definitely saw that folks were pleasantly surprised that I made the outreach. Mm-hmm. They were also pleasantly surprised that I offered to them what my historical knowledge had been, because most nonprofits work as an extension of government in certain cases, right? So I didn't want to just come to the table just asking to pick their brains. I also wanted to lend, any service that I could provide as it related to like navigating a past system that I had become so adept at navigating. So I
Yes.
wanted it to be, mutually beneficial, but also serving as just a springboard for long-term relationship building.
Oh, this is so good, Don. So, for our listeners, I'm just distilling out. So, we did some taking stock and got clear on receipts. What is the history? We did some sourcing information from our network. We then compared those things and pulled out themes, buckets, and used that to really craft the story, the messaging. This is the part I really love because at your level of leadership, sometimes people don't do this. They then, in their outreach position, you positioned yourself as a learner. And I think that is so powerful that you don't always see that at the CEO level. I'm here to learn from you. And also, here's something I have to offer, right? And out the gate, from just influence and persuasion science and anything we want to pull from relationship building, out the gate, first of all, whether you knew it or not, you stroke people's energy, people's ego when you say, I just want to hear from you. Tell me about
Yeah,
you. People like to talk.
people like to talk about themselves.
People like to talk about themselves, what they've done in organization. So they're
Yes,
already positioned. And then being able to provide that valuable intel and insight really showed you as an asset beyond that one conversation.
yes.
And so if you all are listening, you can take these bullet points. Literally, this is a masterclass and how you can facilitate some of this. So I love this. Now, there's a shift though, because government generally has a very defined hierarchical structure. And
Yes.
on our corporate side, we actually do quite a bit with city government in different ways. So it's a special little animal there, that
Yes,
city.
it
I
is.
don't care where I've done a lot of Chicago city government work too, because that's where I'm
Yes.
from. But nonprofit leadership is different. There's still that community building aspect, but it's just a different thing, right? So we know that you shifted your strategy and you talked about that a little bit. But as a leader, what about some of your mindset around how relationships work? What did that shift look like for you? Because I think that's an important point to pull out as well.
So the mindset shift, I think it also ties in with how astutely you pointed out how I position myself as a learner, right?
Yeah.
I think that, understanding that you are not your title, and if you want to deliver your best and serve well, which is the reason why I wanted,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
work, you do need to take a step back and understand that while the title suggests that you're supposed to know it all, that is impossible. You should
Yeah.
never burden yourself with that, right? And so, really positioning myself just as a learner and wanting to be there to listen more, talk less, to want to understand like what the pain points were around this work. I think that helps me serve as a much better leader. And to your point, in government, yes, the hierarchy is very clear. You know who everyone reports up to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that in the nonprofit world, certainly there is a structure, an organizational structure, but depending on the nature of the work, which is really grounded in community and community relationship building, where the nature of your work can really drill down to the individual level.
Yeah.
I think that that's super important. And as a leader, I wanted to also apply that to my leadership style. So I'm very big on knowing everyone's names. And I think I shared this with you in my first 90 days. I said that I needed to meet everyone who worked for CUCS. And
Yeah.
so I know that folks thought that it was, a very ambitious goal. And what I did was I visited every single site
Love it.
where a member of staff worked. And I asked them 4 key questions. So I said, what's your name? What's your tenure? Because I'm very good with remembering names and faces because I think it's important. They should
Yeah.
know who I am. They should know that I'm visible, that I'm not in an ivory tower. But then I also asked them, what was their CUCS story? I wanted to know why they decided, because I knew why I wanted to work here, but I wanted to know why they decided to work here and why they stayed. And then I also asked them for their advice. I said, you are my first and most important client. If I serve you well, then you will serve our clients well. So what's your best advice for me? And I have to tell you, like, I'm just asking the questions, but the way that staff was so generous with knowledge,
Yeah.
the way they were, folks would say, you need to look at our policies because we've outgrown them over time. Some folks were like, this is a really big job. Please don't forget to take care of yourself.
Yes.
So some folks were like, we really need someone who's out there supporting us to advance our initiatives. So please don't stop being visible. But the fact that the team was asked for advice, where some folks started off saying, well, like, I don't think I'm in a position to advise you. And I said, you are absolutely in a position to advise me. You are closest to the work, closest to the client. And if I want to serve you well, I need to know what's working for you and what isn't.
Yeah.
And so it was just really lovely to see how receptive folks were. You know, in government, that may be a little more difficult because of the size, the structure of government really is designed to focus on the collective as opposed to the individual. And so that is certainly a shift that I was able to really make successfully in reaching every single employee that was working for the organization in those first 90 days.
So you got to all 700, Dawn?
I did, yes.
You go, girl. That's amazing. But that was such a powerful, what people don't realize is a lot of leadership is about emotional resonance a lot of time. If you want to influence somebody, it's about emotional resonance. If you want to get somebody's buy-in, it's about emotional resonance. So like asking them to tell that story that was just such a genius move, because that their first impression of you is going to be connected to that. Right. That's powerful. Now I want to talk about trust building, because this was a huge trust building initiative you did with making sure you met all 700 of the staff in the first 90 days. But there is, you know, in working with folks on nonprofit side and on the government side, the trust building looks different, right? Especially if the government side is more on the politics side of it, right? When we think about on this in the nonprofit space, especially for the vulnerable populations that you work with, that you often are having to build trust with communities that have been let down before by systems, that have been exploited by systems. As someone who, you know, came from the neighborhoods and know what people are dealing with, how did you navigate that piece of that, you know, realizing that the trust building was not only with your staff, but with the people that you all are serving as well as the face of the organization?
I think for me, and I really believe that I'm blessed in this way. I think that since I do come to this work with lived experience, having been, you know, a native New Yorker, you know, or being a native New Yorker, but also the fact that, you know, my family has absolutely, you know, been in certain situations where a level of vulnerability, you know, certainly exposed. So I think that having that as part of just my journey and my life story really positioned me well to always see myself in my client's experience. So I think that's been helpful. We do have a saying here that I think is so important with how you frame the question. We always say that the relationship is the treatment. So for us, that means if it takes one time to reach someone, 5 times, 10 times, you know, if it means that we have to think about the needs of their family to get to their specific needs, we're willing to develop the relationship, and we don't care how long it takes to do it. So I think that for us, you know, we understand that time is a precious commodity, and it needs to be well spent creating trust and the relationship. Government, I do know that there's, you know, oftentimes I look at the metrics and the cycle time, right? Where like you're so conscious of time because you're reporting out to your residents on how long it took you to do that thing, and you're spending tax dollars to do it. But in the nonprofit sector, you are able to really work in a way that's truly human-centered, based on someone's human experience, and that relationship building is allowed to be so much richer because we understand that it's not just meeting with a client once and all their problems are solved. It's about digging in deep to look at the root cause of the issue, the ways in which they need to stabilize, understanding that varies depending on the clients, right? But seeing yourself in their experience and not giving up on consistent relationship building.
Yeah, because the issues are so complex that one hit is not going to do it. You have to do it from different angles. So I love that. When we talked before, we talked a little bit about this tension. And I think this probably resonates with a lot of Black women in particular, probably people of color, but our audience, Black women. This tension between maintaining authenticity and adapting to a new environment, And I think that authenticity term is loaded, right?
Yes.
What, from your take in real time kind of doing this, where is that line for you?
So once again, I think I draw back on the fact that I am a woman of a certain age and experience. And, I'm very clear that the pressure that we put ourselves under to fit in, especially when it is clear that there's a level to which, any Black woman, when we're talking about our audience,
Yeah.
like, we can't assimilate. We are who we are, right? So I think embracing how I identify as a proud Black woman
Yeah.
is the first thing that I own and I accept. I think that when I think about that natural tension, it's just if I'm able to look at myself in the mirror and understand why I've made that decision. Now, it doesn't mean that 3 months from now that I completely agree with the decision that was made, but that I understand what got me there because, sometimes decisions can be contingent on resources, time, the matter at hand. But if I can understand my thought process and why I arrived at that particular decision point,
Yeah.
then for me, I feel like I brought my best self to that experience and I did the best I could do with the resources and the time that I had. Just because I do think that sometimes we are given messages as Black women, especially as we're leading, that what we're offering is not enough and that people are then looking for us to react a certain way, not understanding that we are also a historical face of leadership, right?
Yeah.
And we can still pivot and be nimble. So for me, my line is, if I can look at myself in the mirror and look myself in the face and say, Dawn, why did you arrive here? Like, did you do your best in that moment? Then I feel that I've been able to pair my authenticity with what was required at the time.
Yeah, and I think too, there we have to broaden because sometimes people get really twisted around this term of authenticity as if it is bringing every single part of you, and it's not. Sometimes these places don't deserve every single part of you, and
Right.
sometimes it's inappropriate, right, to bring every single part of you. But that there is this piece of still, I view it for myself as authenticity, right? I even have certain clients where I could let a bit more of weekend Laura out
Exactly.
versus I have other clients where I'm still myself. I might bring some humor, but I'm a little bit more polished. And that's less about me not being authentic and more about me having a very appropriate line of how do I not betray myself with also not alienating you. That
Yes.
is the kind of, you know what I mean?
Right.
That piece.
Everyone doesn't need to see kitchen table conversation doors.
Okay, bottomless mimosas, Laura. Okay.
Exactly. It's like it's just not helpful. So I think your point as it relates to appropriateness is
Yeah.
absolutely right and it's fair because you don't want to betray yourself.
Yep. This is so good. So let's say there's a leader listening. They're stepping into a new role, a new sector, a new community. What would you say are the most important relationship building moves for them to make in the first 90 days?
Whew. First 90 days, and I think I'm just going to take a page out of what I did.
Okay.
Listen more than you talk.
Okay.
Decide to be the student. It's okay because really you're in your honeymoon period, right? You're starting a new job. No one's going to necessarily question or expect that you know everything as you are stepping into this leadership role. So really enjoy and embrace the new.
Yeah.
Give yourself opportunity to learn from your team because there's a reason why they've done things a certain way. You want to look at whether or not your team is closely aligned with the mission or is the mission a vestige of the past? And you have to think about how to incorporate who you now are, right?
Yes.
In comparison to what the historical mission has been. But definitely, listening more than you talk, it is such a powerful way to then create and establish what you think are the points of conversation and discussion you now want to have with your staff after those 90 days.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes as a new leader, you're focusing so much on proving yourself. And it's just like, who are you proving yourself
You
to?
got the job. You hear that?
You've already demonstrated proof that you could be selected. Now give yourself the grace and the time to enjoy the new and be a student. Allow
Yeah.
your staff or other stakeholders in the work to teach you for those first 90 days so that you can then create something that is grounded in your operational realities and not just an aspiration.
Yeah, that's so good. Is there any mistakes you would want them to avoid in the first 90 days that you have seen people make?
It definitely ties with what I just said, but I think that sometimes, when we think of the titles of president or
Yeah.
CEO, I think that some people fall in love with the title because they're so hard earned. And
Yes.
I mean, it's when I tell you, when I first became a director of something,
Couldn't tell you nothing, huh?
I was like, finally, you know what I mean? So, but I've had to learn the importance of you're not your title. I want to be the
Yeah.
best Dawn Pinnock I could be every day. And so in doing that, it's embracing the role, but understanding that even as a president and CEO, you are not required to know everything. You
Yeah.
can know a lot about a lot. You can have transferable skills that serve you well in that role, but don't place yourself under that pressure because
Yes.
you're not going to be able to enjoy the journey. Getting the job was the event, but now you're on a journey. So allow
Yeah.
yourself to enjoy that.
That's so good. That's so good. This is the last question I want to ask before we switch to our season 9 kind of theme questions.
Okay.
So, your organization serves a lot of people with complex needs. So, there is some trust connection work that your team is doing to really be able to do this and to be able to do it on a best practice model that you all are training people nationally. How does the way you build relationships internally with your team shape your ability to serve the community externally? And I think people miss there is some mirroring that's happening there, right? What's your
Absolutely.
take on that?
So I'm a firm believer that, my internal relationship building has served as the springboard,
Yeah.
making external connections. And so with that, similar to my saying, learning from your staff, the way I form my meetings with my team, I meet with my members of the C-suite, individually, weekly or bi-weekly. We also have times where we have an executive leadership meeting where we
Yeah.
talk about overarching issues that are impacting the organization. But we've created a space where it's not like I'm just telling them what to do. It's open dialogue, identifying opportunities for collaboration, because I say all the time that this organization wouldn't need a CEO, without people who are being
Yeah.
receptive to leadership, right? Because while I'm responsible for everything, I control nothing. And in
Yeah.
understanding I don't control it, then I want to give space and opportunity for members of my executive team to weigh in on organizational decision making.
Yeah.
And so I absolutely, especially looking at how far we've come over these 2 years, and actually tomorrow is my anniversary.
Oh,
It will end my
wow.
second year in this role.
Wow.
How far we've come where we operate as a team, where we were historically viewed as being more siloed,
Yeah.
lets me know that that approach, is really creating for a more successful structure in the organization.
Yeah, it's on the right track. It's on the right track. So we've talked about how you have, the mindset shift as well as the strategy shift to
Mhm.
recalibrate relationships, to recalibrate your kind of way that you build relationships in this new role. What has this journey, 2 years tomorrow, right?
Yes.
What has this journey and this transition point kind of taught you about yourself as a leader that maybe you didn't know before?
So, what it's taught me is that I've not lost the fire in my belly. I'm still, someone who's very passionate about service,
Yeah.
because I think that it is crucial. I think that really, part of our life's journey is to be in service. And then
Yeah.
if we all choose to serve well, that helps to move us all forward. So that's been wonderful to understand that, when you're doing something for a long time, you start to, sometimes second guess, like, can I
Yeah.
start again? Like there were some individuals who said, listen, you can retire from that job. Like you're
Yeah.
serving at the highest levels of government. Why would you do this now? Like this is the time. This is not the time to do it. And
Yeah.
for me, I said, I think this is divine timing. like this is like I've learned enough to know how to serve even better in ways that are more impactful, right? So I think that it helped to reaffirm, but kind of surprised me with like just how much energy and how much commitment that I'm bringing to service, even if some of the aspects of this sector feel a little unfamiliar. So I'm very, very proud of that. And I'm happy to see that what I've learned so far and have applied to working within this organization and in this sector is really allowing us to build relationships that historically our agency has not.
That's amazing. Amazing. So we've been all in our season 9 theme, right? On nurturing and cultivating relationships this whole episode. I'd like to ask you one of our season theme question that then turns it back to you as the real Black woman leading. So we've talked about, cultivating these relationships with the teams, with the populations we serve, all of these different things, right? But what has cultivating a relationship with yourself looked like across the seasons of your life and your leadership? If we go to the Miss Dawn 20 years ago and Miss Dawn now, right? Like, what has that kind of piece, what has that looked like across the seasons of your leadership?
So in my relationship with myself, I've always been someone who is very hardworking, very focused. I'm not someone who would ever be described as being complacent. I remember someone used to say she never lets the grass grow under her feet. I'm always, trying to move forward and advance. But I think one of the things that has been key for me is that I stopped project managing my life. I felt that, this has to be done in this time. This has to be sequential. This can only take place at this time. And what I felt was that even if a job, right, on some level signified that I was advancing, if I'm always keeping score, I'm always thinking I'm behind on some aspect of my life, as opposed to understanding that, like, there's no project management. There's always an unforeseen circumstance. There's always a need to pivot. So I've actively decided, like, I'm not project managing my life, because sometimes it's going to be a little messy. But if you continue to put one foot in front of the other, incrementally, you can see the ways in which you're growing, the ways in which you're changing and learning and advancing, right? So I had to really stop that piece, because I felt that it ran counter to the kind of leader that I wanted to be, because I was keeping score. I was not focused on my own race, because I was, on some level project managing, my ascension, my growth, my learning, as opposed to taking stock of it, being proud of it, enjoying it, in some cases dreading it, to know what things I did not want to do anymore.
Exactly.
And so I had to actively stop doing that.
You can drop the mic on that one, Dawn. You can drop the mic on that one, but I'm going to ask you this last one. We talked about a lot today. If there's one thing that you want every Black woman listening to walk away with and do differently when it comes to building and kind of sustaining these relationships, what would that one thing be?
This may sound a little odd, right? Because I do talk about the importance of servant leadership and being in service. But what I would ask every Black woman, especially any Black woman leading, is to never lose sight of yourself. We are so deeply connected, where we naturally decide to put everyone ahead of ourselves, whether it's at home, whether it's in the boardroom. I mean, the most important relationship you're ever going to have in this life is the one with yourself.
Yeah.
And so don't lose sight of yourself in this journey, because you are such an integral player. Yeah. And so that would be the advice I would give.
I love it. You all right with me, Dawn. You are all right with me. This was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your wisdom with us. How can people connect with you beyond the podcast? And is there anything special you or your organization has going on that people should know about?
So first, thank you, Laura. Thank you. I know this is going to be the first of many conversations. Listen,
I'm excited.
I'm happy to,
I'm excited.
Wonderful. In terms of being in touch with my organization and learning more about the work that we do, which is phenomenal, you can reach us at cucs.org. And through our website, you will see ways which you can donate, which you can volunteer your time. You can learn about our comprehensive approach. But really, that serves as a great source of information. Also this year, if you sign up for our newsletter, you will see that we're celebrating our 40th year with providing primary care and psychiatry to our clients here in New York City through our medical affiliate. Also, you will see that we are celebrating our 10th year with providing crisis intervention training to our New York City police officers here, where they can engage with folks who are contending with mental illness in ways that limit them being criminalized, and having like a really good trauma-informed approach with dealing with our clients. And then we're also celebrating our 10th year around offering intensive mobile treatment, where it is a very human-centered, very direct way in which we track folks who are chronically homeless, whether they are hospitalized, whether they're incarcerated, always providing them with the services they need to stabilize here in New York City. So please, cucs.org, that is the best way to find out about what we do.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for the amazing work you're doing to just support humanity. I mean, it really is just transformational work that you're doing. I hope you all listening have enjoyed today's episode. I mean, you all should have had your notebooks out because Baby Don was giving you a masterclass, okay? But if you found this information useful, you all share with a friend, share with a colleague, and help us to amplify these conversations we're having that center us and our stories and our growth. We are on all major podcast platforms. You can also listen on the Black Woman Leading website, blackwomanleading.com, and on the Black Woman Leading YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, favorite, review, comment, all the things to help us to amplify these really powerful conversations. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Black Woman Leading. Of course, you can visit our website to learn about our cohort programs, our events, and everything that we have to support you through your career journey. And then if you wanted to connect with me personally, I'm at Laura E. Knights. You can find me most active on LinkedIn and Instagram. And then finally, if you'd like to learn about the work we do inside of organizations to support the building of their leaders and their teams, check out our corporate site at knightsconsultinggroup.com. We love to connect with you in any of these ways. And until next time, be well. Keep on